I think okay, so I made the video like super super fast because I wanted to, sadly, a large part of being a film critic is jumping on things really fast, which I try not to do in most cases, but I figure, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'll just watch it really fast. And then when I watched it on the Thursday night, I was like, holy shit, this is one of the like most insanely bad movies I've ever seen. And so I had to make a video of it, and thankfully there was just, the whole movie was revealed in the trailer, so I was able to stitch it together like that. But I seriously never would have expected that people would be defending it so hard, because people like I thought I was on the wrong side of the argument. Well, I mean, not wrong side, but unpopular side of the argument on Amazing Spider-Man 1 when I said that it was not that bad, and people were losing their shit at me when I said that. Now all of a sudden I think like, oh, for sure people aren't gonna defend Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because not only is it like a million times worse, but people generally don't like sequels as much, right? And I thought that there had already been enough of the anti-new Spider-Man bandwagon that I wouldn't even have to make like the most coherent argument, right? But it turns out that people really like Electro, or something about the movie, or that the pretend dubstep is just really that cool.
Jamie Foxx, when I saw the trailer and I saw like how he was not Electro, but how he was dressed as his normal character, I burst out laughing. He's like an obvious nerdy character, well, not nerdy, but whatever loser character you could possibly design. No subtlety involved.
I know, and the problem is that there are, since I did that review so fast, there are legitimate things that I essentially got wrong about it, which cover anywhere between about 20 seconds to less than a minute of the total 26-minute review. But since those people want to defend it so badly, they'll use that like very small minor mistake as legitimate reason to say that the whole review is invalid, right? They'll be like, Gwen Stacy was meeting her parents that night, and I'm like, okay, so it means that, okay, you're right, she didn't go into a restaurant and just sit down and expect him to leave for no reason. But then that also begs the question, why would she break up with him at that moment when she's going to meet her parents at a restaurant? Isn't that the horrible time to do that? And then there are people arguing like, oh, you made it so that you strategically edited it so that you didn't see that a police officer tried to shoot Electro before he got mad. That means his character arc was totally legitimate and justified. It's like, A, I was working with trailer footage, and if I had that clip, I would have shown it. Right? But they didn't show it in the trailer. And then B, I think people really don't understand that having a character that you immediately start out writing as he's emotionally disturbed and socially anxious, isn't it the biggest, most obvious thing in the world that they're just going to make him be like, oh, I stubbed my toe, now I hate Spider-Man, or just like some horrible reason where it's like, the reason why he's set up that way as this unrelatable character that you're just supposed to assume is crazy off the bat with good intentions is so that when he has that arc, they literally don't have to put any effort into the writing. And that was my problem. Was not like, I don't see how people could say like, oh, they shot at him first, therefore it was totally legitimate. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know. If it gets packed and then I get a message somewhere else saying like, oh, I can't get in, then I might ask someone like Jack to faithfully step down and let someone else come in. Attack on Titan, number 1.
everyone's like obsessed with it. So
yeah, I feel like I don't know, because part of the problem is that it has its flaws, but for whatever reason, excuse me, people are. I feel like if I pointed out those flaws, I would get the same response as I get from Spider-Man 2, where it's like,
probably.
It'll be like, oh, it's an anime, so you're supposed to not care about these flaws. And it's like, I love how, especially in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and especially, like, you'll see this every single time I say anything negative about a superhero movie in a video. We'll get this exact same response every single time. It'll be like, it's a superhero movie. It's not supposed to be grounded in reality. You're not supposed to call it out for those things. It's just like, okay, but you can not have as many of the same product placement, right? You can put in a bit of effort to the story or characters, right? And it's insane that in one sentence, someone will post a comment on YouTube saying, you're supposed to judge these movies on a different standard, and then in the exact same comment say, you're biased against those movies. No, I think judging a selection of movies on a different standard than any other movie means you're biased towards those movies. If I'm judging them all on the same standard, does that not mean I'm unbiased? I don't understand how that works. I feel like the people that really gravitate towards those movies have a different definition of a movie than I might. Because I don't think they want to watch a movie. I think they want to watch a toy commercial and explosions.
Hey, the Lego movie was a prime example of a toy commercial.
Exactly, and it was done well, right? Yeah. So therefore, I guess I'm like, I can't be that biased if the ones that are done right I actually like. I mean, everybody's biased because everybody's a conscious brain, and you can't be objective ever. But I mean, I try my best to be unbiased, you know? I'm like, how many movie critics have you ever seen where they can say, I liked the movie, but then not give it, like, a great rating? Where someone can say, like, I really enjoyed it, but I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Or, like, I really didn't like it, but I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I feel like people don't understand the purpose of that. Because it's like, people automatically assume that there should be a correlation between enjoyment and what you think the level of the quality of the movie is, or that people automatically think that those two things have to be, like, intertwined to a T, where they don't understand why it wouldn't be. Because it's, like, I mean, I feel like the people that enjoyed The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I feel like maybe they should be saying, like, that they give it a 6 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10, you know? Because they're saying that they like, especially after watching my video, they're saying, like, okay, I understand that there's flaws throughout, but I still really enjoyed it, 10 out of 10. But where does that 10 come from, right? Like, why? Nobody's trying to give an objective rating. I'm trying. I mean, like, people get mad if I say that I was giving an objective rating, which I don't believe that I'm completely objective, obviously, but I'm at least trying. Nobody tries. It didn't deserve
I don't like
it.
the fact that I can't physically return it if I don't like it, if I purchase something on iTunes. Like, if I don't like...
Can you do that in, like, real life? Can you go to a movie store and say, I don't like it, and return it?
No, but you can go to a movie theater and say this...
Oh, you can walk out halfway through. Right?
What?
But I don't think I don't do that anyway.
You pay before you watch the movie.
Once.
You've walked out of a movie before and asked for your money?
Yeah. It was fucking Sucker Punch.
Ha!
No.
I did watch that in theaters, too. The person that I brought was not impressed. And they wanted to leave.
I got my money back. I was like, fuck this. I'm going home.
I guess, especially if this is my job, I don't think I can walk out of movies. Although I don't think I ever have anyway. There was one movie that I really wanted to walk out of, and I would have if my friend didn't make me stay, and that was the Death Note live-action movie.
There's a Death Note live-action movie?
Yeah, it's Japanese.
I have something else. What's your favorite type of like genre to review that you do? Not genre, but like your top 10s or like your YMS or stuff.
Oh. I don't know, because there's different senses of like fulfillment versus effort. So, I mean, I could make a quickie in a day. It'll take most of my day, but I can do it in a day. And yet, depending on the YMS video, some of those take like more than a month. Thoughts on videos are pretty simple. I guess, like, if I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be, like, a thoughts on video, because I really have, like, no restrictions as to what I can make the video about, really. I feel like I'm free, because in a YMS video, I'm going in there with the agenda of it's a piece of shit. But on a thoughts on video, I feel like I could say like as many positive things about it as bad things, or just make a video that's completely positive. Or I feel like the fact that I added that to my channel, because it used to be just like quickies and YMS videos. I feel like the fact that I added that will do a lot of good to the variety of this channel, and I've already got a notepad file with a lot of potential things to make thoughts on videos about. And I guess now I'm at the point where sometimes it'll be like, if I have a YMS, or like if there's a movie that really fucking sucks that I want to talk about, and I feel like it won't take up like 15 to 25 minutes, if I feel like it'll be shorter than that, then I might just do it and then call it a thoughts on video if it's like 12 minutes or something. But that also raises a bit of concern, because the YMS videos that I'm making, I have to plan so fucking far in advance, because I'm doing them as like a monthly quota, and since they take so long to make, I have to anticipate what I think would fill up that amount of a time slot, like well before I'm actually in the editing process, which is a weird stress on its own. But I guess it's not that big of a deal. But I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it would be thoughts on, because it's like freedom and no real. I'm not even like even in the description, despite it being like a patron supported thing, despite it like me, I guess, charging or people donating for it, there's really no guidelines as to what could be considered a thoughts on video. Fuck, who's Daniel and why are you calling me?
So many foreign movies, like make your list of top 10 or like just best movies in general. So like America Sucks or something for movies.
Well, you might say that I have a disproportionately large amount of foreign films on my list, but here, let's go to my list right now. Last one that I did, 2012. Let's see the ratio of foreign films to English films. Okay, so we got Amour, foreign film. The Hunt, foreign film, foreign language. The Master, English. Moonrise Kingdom, English. Samsara, debatable because there's no language. So let's say we got 2.5 out of 15 already. Elena, foreign. Reality, foreign. Rust and Bone, foreign. Indie Game the Movie, that's 3.5 out of 15. Nameless Gangsters, foreign. The Sessions, 4.5 out of 15. Like Someone in Love is foreign. Killing Them Softly, 5.5 out of 15. The Ambassador, despite being a Danish film, was also in English, so let's give that another half. So let's just say 6 out of 15 movies from my last top 12 list, which a decent amount of people did say. Like, what's with all the foreign films? And yet, considering how many languages and how many countries there are, and how many, like, so I've got Danish, French, there was an Italian one, South Korean, like, all these different languages, and yet English fills up the majority of those spots anyway, despite being extremely inclusive to those languages. And the point of making the list is not to be like, oh, I want to include as many languages as possible. Because you know what? Indian movies kind of fucking suck. like Bollywood movies are mostly bad. And it's not like I'll be like, oh, I secretly like this movie, but I won't include it because it's Indian. In the same respect, it's not like I'm like, oh, I secretly hate this movie, but I'll include it because it's not English, right? The best films of every year, it makes sense for them to come from a variety of countries, even though, like I just pointed out, it's still dominated by the English language. The real bias is not in my lists being, like, over a third of them being in English and the rest foreign. That's not a bias. The real bias is the, like, 99.9% of film, YouTube, and professional critics and otherwise who make a list every single year, and we're supposed to believe that either 100%, like 10 out of 10 of their films, all come, like, of the best movies of every year, come from America, or maybe 9 out of 10 if someone watched something like The Raid, or there was a big hit from another country like Pan's Labyrinth, right? That's the bias. The bias is not like, oh no, only a third. A third! That's still like a giant, giant chunk. So my argument is that no, there's not a crap ton of foreign films on my list, and it's not disproportionate, it's just more even than everybody else's lists, which are way disproportionate and way blown out of proportion for their bias. People accuse me of being biased, but I'm just trying to be unbiased, and people see it as a bias because I'm not the same bias that everybody else is. It looks like I'm the guy that's being like, oh, I only like things that are foreign and I hate English films and I hate blockbusters, but it's like, no, I have what's called a healthy variety, not a disproportionate bias like everybody who's accusing me of having has. Like, I can't believe people can make that accusation with a straight face. The exact same thing that I was talking about with the whole Amazing Spider-Man 2 is people will say, like, you're biased against superhero movies, but then they'll say, you're not supposed to judge superhero movies on the same standard as literally every other type of film. You're supposed to give them extra credit. No, that's a bias, not, like, the bias is when you're saying that you're supposed to judge them differently, not when you're judging them evenly, right? When you're judging them fairly and not giving them special privilege. Okay, 2011 list. Out of 15 titles, Shame, Weekend, Midnight in Paris, Certified Copy is a 0.5, and I guess The Artist is also a 0.5 because that was completely silent. Even though it did have English words at the end, so we'll just say 4. Drive, 5. Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, 6. I don't know if Senna was originally in English. Tree of Life, 7. Submarine, 8. 8 out of 15 titles, and people are saying, like, I have a bias for foreign films. That's like half my list is one country out of, like, how many countries do I even have on my list? It's insane. I get angry all the time. This is why I have a YouTube channel. So I can yell at people.
I don't understand the Oscars when they have a special category for foreign film, like best foreign film.
Because otherwise no one would win, because, like, the Oscars are a business, and they want to make nominations of movies that people have seen and not necessarily the best films of the year, right? And B, I mean, if the Oscars can, like, I feel like if they didn't have that special category, then there would never be a foreign language film that even makes it into the normal categories. I was surprised with Amour. I was really surprised, and I'm glad that Hanukkah is finally getting some recognition in the mainstream crowd, I guess. But at the same time, I don't feel like that many people bought his movie or even cared. It's not like I believe the category should be there. Like, if it was something other than the Oscars, but since it's the Oscars and we have to expect that a lot of their choices will be bad in the first place, we have to expect that they will need that crutch that considers foreign language films to be different somehow, and that people don't want to read, and somehow that changes their movie experience. America!
Hey, Adam, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
What website do you think has, like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, like, their ratings, like, which one would you say, like, would be, like, the best website to, like, sort of look at?
The one that most closely resembles my own opinions, I've found, is Metacritic, from the critic scores, not the user scores. But that doesn't mean it's perfect, and that doesn't mean you should trust it. But chances are, when a movie comes out, and IMDb users say it's like The Avengers is one of the 250 greatest movies of all time, and that Gravity is one of the, like, 30 greatest movies of all time, and then, like, you go on Rotten Tomatoes and it's got, like, a 99 or 98%, then I'll go to Metacritic and it'll be still higher than what I think it should be, but more closely grounded into reality, just because their algorithm's different. Rotten Tomatoes is the worst website for that, because their algorithm does not make any sense. It does not provide you with a score of the average score of what they rated the film. It provides you with nothing more than a percentage of fresh to rotten reviews. Fresh meaning anything, I think, above 60%, and rotten meaning, like, anything below. So, literally, it over-glorifies the most bland, like, easy, crowd-accessible, but nothing special, unchallenging films on the planet. So when Ben Affleck's The Town comes out, and every single critic in the world thinks, like, oh, it's good, not great, it's good, so everybody gives it, like, a 6 or a 7, and then on Rotten Tomatoes it shows up as 99%, because 99% of people gave it, like, a 6 or a 7. Right? It's retarded. Don't ever use that website. It's horrible. But most people don't know how to properly judge a performance, especially when they're really into it. Where, like, if the music's telling them to believe something, then they'll believe it in the performance. There was actually like one of the earlier tests of film, when film was just starting out. I forget what year this was when this thing that I'm referencing actually happened, but they wound up just taking a single shots of an actor's, like, blank expression, and they would use editing to basically cut back and forth between their face and whatever they're reacting to, right? So, cut to their face, they're looking at, like, children's birthday party. Cut to their face, they're looking at a dog getting killed, or, you know, different varieties of possible emotions of things that they could be reacting to. And overwhelming crowd response that they got was just like, oh my god, what a terrific performance. He reflected what he was seeing to a T, and I could see his pain, I could see his joy, etc., etc. But what they actually did was they just literally just got this guy to stare at a wall and didn't tell him to do anything, and then interspliced those other things. And since people see what he's reacting to, they project their own emotions onto the person experiencing it, because they are also an observer, right? And so the actor doesn't necessarily have to do anything. So people get caught up in this trick that is the magic of cinema, where the actor doesn't necessarily have to sell a scene in order for people to believe that they're reacting to it properly. And I feel like this is what happened in Gravity, because Sandra Bullock was really fucking terrible. And, like, yeah, I get it. The atmosphere and the music really helped. But it's no excuse. And I mean, I think what I really need to do is, like, next time I make a video on it, which I probably will, I think I just need to take some of her performance clips out of context from the movie so people can actually judge it and not just be like, oh, I'm in space and it's so good. You know what's a really bad argument for a movie that I see people making all the time is when I don't enjoy something, they'll be like, oh, you didn't see it in IMAX. I'm like, I should, you should not be able to say that a movie's quality is any different in terms of filmmaking, acting, music, performance, directing, cinematography, whatsoever. The film should not be judged differently based on the medium you use to watch it. I could watch a movie on my fucking phone, and I could be able to tell whether or not it's a piece of shit or great. And if I watch it on a giant screen, sure, I might enjoy the experience a lot more, and I might be immersed much better, and that might be my preferential choice to watch it, but that does not make the film better or worse. And I'm sick of people saying that. And what's up? No, I was pretty much done what I was saying, but it's if that can make or break someone's opinion of a film, then it's like, what are you watching? Are you actually watching the film? Are you actually judging the film, or are you just judging like the sound equipment and theater projection? Like because then you can say, great, the IMAX theater was a great experience, but that doesn't mean that Gravity was a good movie.
Yeah, that's like, they're basically judging the quality of the picture and the sound, and it's like they're getting it confused with the actual quality of the film.
I know that voice.
So,
Hey, Ben.
I heard that countless times about Avatar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it looks really good, therefore it's a great film, and it's like, okay.
I know. People, I feel like, especially when people are like, oh, you can't experience joy, how come you don't just get automatically immersed into things? Like, okay, I'm willing to accept that maybe I have a disability in that sense. Like, I just can't enjoy things as easily. But does that not make my perspective a little less biased? Because I'm not able to be tricked so easily, and that maybe my brain automatically demands a bit more realism than most people might. I don't know. It's tough being the guy that's saying that everybody's wrong all the time. People get mad, and they think the comment I see so many times is just like, oh, you're just pretending to have that opinion just to get views. It's like, you know what? If I wanted to get the most views, I'd agree with everybody every single time. That's what Jeremy Johns does, and he's the most popular critic of all time on YouTube. He literally just, like, he is the epitome of the average film goer's opinions, and people love to be agreed with, right? I would get more views doing that, I think, but is it, like, if people are going to accuse me of faking my opinions based on whether or not it's popular, then does that mean that that's what they're doing? If that's how they think other people's minds work, then does that not imply that they only like the movie because it's popular, and that it's maybe just like a social acceptance thing rather than judging a film? Because I feel like that probably happens to a lot of people. Because like, especially on these giant, like, hype movies like Avatar, Gravity, Amazing Spider-Man 2, surprisingly, and Avengers, as soon as they come out, if I made this exact same video in a month from now, or in 5 months from now, it would not have that overwhelmingly negative of a response, which, I mean, most of the response for the video is positive. You look at the like and dislike bar, like, enough people, especially my subscribers and watchers of this channel who are fed up with the film industry, understand that it's a shitty film. But, like, if you, for whatever reason, all you need is just, like, the hype to die down a little, which is exactly what's going to happen when I make my next Gravity video, is that by this point, people will be like, oh, okay, it's not as great of a movie because I've already heard, like, friend A and friend B imply that before, where it's like people are just more willing to other opinions when it's not, like, what's that word? I don't know, like the end-all opinion or the, fuck, my brain.
What word are you looking for?
I don't even know.
Just died.
My brain's gone now.
One thing I really don't like, and this is kind of not connected somewhat, but one thing I really don't like is how people think that, like, just because a film's overrated, it can't be good at the same time. Like, I mean, The Dark Knight, for example, it's like, you can't get any more overrated than that, but I would still call that a great film, you know, I would still give that an 8
Can you get
10,
more overrated than that? Because...
I'm thinking, I don't, I mean...
Okay. I get what you're saying, although I won't argue with you.
I mean, you probably... But no, it's just like you say to someone, you know, like, I think this film's overrated, and they're automatically like, oh, well, you must think it sucks. It's like, not really.
Well, yeah, I just want to bring it to reality and not God status.
It's like, yeah, I would give The Dark Knight an 8, but someone would look at that and be like, oh, you think it sucks? And I'm like, oh, God. It's like, you know, it's like when you give something a 7, it's like, and you see this a lot, like, with video game reviews, like, if you give, like, a video game a 7, and, like, you go on, like, the popular review channels, everyone, like, freaks the fuck out, like, they're thinking, like, oh, you say it sucks, and it's like...
I know, isn't that annoying? That's why people think I'm, like, the biggest hipster of all time, is because, like, everyone's favorite movies, aka the ones that make the most money in the year, everybody wants to make them, like, a 10 out of 10. Avengers was the greatest movie of all time.
If it's not given a 10, like,
stop.
people can't enjoy it.
Like, a 6 is reasonable. Right. It's not, like... It would be... like, I can understand why some people are upset at my Spider-Man 2 review, because I gave it a 3, which is, like, ridiculously low even for me. But I do think it was that bad. Like, I was so shocked. There is no way I could go on for 26 minutes about, like, any other film that I've seen in, like... Well, I guess After Earth I went on for, like, an hour, but still... Just from, like, memory after watching it out of the theaters, I feel like if I got, like, a Blu-ray of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I could make a half-hour-long review on that shit. I don't know if I will, since I've already kind of done it, but... No, yeah, it's... I don't know. People get offended more if you're implying that you didn't enjoy it, right? I could be like, 7 out of 10, Avengers, but I didn't like it. And people would freak out. It's not that far off. I mean... I don't know. I get I don't understand how people can just eat it up. I don't understand.
It's because, I mean, with a lot of superhero films, you know, if not, well, I wouldn't say all, but with a lot of them, it's because, I said this last time, I think you said it as well, it's because, you know, people go and, you know, no matter, like, how bad or good it is, a lot of people already have this emotional connection to the characters, so it's like, it could be like the worst thing ever, but just because it's Spider-Man or whatever, it's like, they like it just because it's that, or, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could say it with a lot of things.
Exactly,
well, like,
right?
A lot, I mean, any director or any actor, it's like, oh, this actor's in this film, so therefore it's automatically good, and it's like, no, sorry.
Yeah, I really, that's also correct.
I also think a lot of it just has, like, to do with, like, circle jerking yourself. It's like,
yep.
Some guy goes to see a movie and he's like, oh, Jeremy Johnson, tell me what you thought about it. Oh, it's like, oh, yeah, it's so good. Like,
well, yeah, people want someone to agree with them, and that's the, like, yeah. I made worse of a case for Nymphomaniac than I did for Amazing Spider-Man 2, but, like, everybody hated Nymphomaniac like me, and they couldn't wait for someone to justify their own opinions on a large platform.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not a... People aren't interested in, like, critical arguments. They're interested in nodding their head and saying, someone agrees with me. It's sad.
Yep.
Such is the life of being a now, like, internet public figure.
Nearly 100,000 subs.
Almost.
I'm gonna check.
I can't wait for a major scandal. Maybe I'll get arrested doing something really funny. That'll be a controversy.
Jack and I were just talking about, I don't know, somehow we got on the topic of your death. Before
My death?
Because,
When did that happen?
Ages ago, you were like, we were talking about the people laughing at other people's deaths or something. And it was something to do with 4chan and that. Yeah, and I was saying that you said if you died ironically, you'd want people to laugh. And I said I could honestly picture someone in a fursuit at Adam's funeral or something like that.
I don't know if I feel like the people. It depends how public that funeral is, because I don't feel like anybody I associate with would do that. I don't feel like anybody I know and communicate with, and I communicate and know a lot of furries, right? I don't feel like anybody would get the thought that that would be an appropriate thing to do around my grieving family. But it would be funny. It's too bad I'd be dead.
This is just tongue in cheek.
No, but I also brought up like what would be written on your headstone. So it'd be like, Adam was a good man. He died an ironic death. He was murdered by M. Night Shyamalan.
Or Michael Goy.
Yeah,
I feel like that guy's a real murderer. I just want my my tombstone to be like, life was all right, 6 out of 10. It's pretty good. Check it out. I feel like if I die before I make a will, you guys should just mail my parents and tell them I said that. And then I'll have a really cool tombstone. When am I supposed to make a will? Am I supposed to wait until I'm like 40?
This way,
where would I put it? I don't have a lawyer.
You should put either when they die or when they have kids.
I'm never having kids though.
Yeah,
when you settle down with whoever.
Who? There's nobody.
You should put in your will that you want everyone to come to your funeral as a furry or something.
Yeah, no humans allowed. That would offend my lifestyle choices. You're all supposed to respect me and bend over backwards with these arbitrary and silly rules because I'm dead. And we're supposed to respect dead people in this society more than we respect the living. You're on your own, kid, but as soon as you die, we'll respect you.
Or before you're born.
Yeah, that too. You live in America, though, so you get to say that. Oh, America.
That's why I don't like when people rate an entire show instead of each season, because individual seasons change directors and art styles.
Well, directors change every episode even, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can have a bad episode, too.
There's always bad seasons in a series. Like, The Office has bad seasons.
The Office went way downhill.
Oh, yeah.
Season 6 was when I just, like, got mad.
Yeah.
And then season 7, I tried and then was like, why am I even watching this if I'm not even enjoying myself? And I just shut it off and never looked back. It was about 4 episodes into season 7 when I was watching it with my friends, and I was like, I don't know what we're doing. This isn't even funny. Like, fuck.
After they ended up on Netflix, I went through them just to get through the series, and then, like, the very last, like, episode of season 9 was the only good episode of the last 3 seasons.
Well, no. You guys are ruining
I didn't watch that far, so I couldn't even tell you.
Okay, well, if each episode is directed by a different director, how come we don't judge episodes instead of seasons?
Because the director of the episode does not have anything to do with the management of the show in its entirety. The director is like essentially a director for hire, And
yeah,
so I mean, 6 Feet Under, there'll be a different director every episode, but Alan Ball has got the magical power of saying this needs to happen here, this needs to happen here. And yes, episodes will have different writers, but it's all more or less done collectively, so that one person gets credit for each episode, but really everybody was sitting in a room of 12 people going like, this is the one you're taking care of, and this is what needs to happen. This is the one you're taking care of, and this is what needs to happen. Goes through a lot of people, even if there's only really one person being credited. But, I mean, generally it's a group collaboration. In Breaking Bad, there were some moments where I did notice the director was different. Like, all of a sudden, one episode would have, like, these really, like, trendy, out-of-place transitions where, like, the end of a scene would be, like, someone turning on a blender, and then the beginning of the next scene would be like someone vacuuming, and it's like, oh, you see the noise transitioned over the scenes. That happened like 4 times. I'm like, I get it, you have your own style, but you're supposed to be working on a group show, not your own movie. Like, fuck. Yeah. Which is funny that he was in Melancholia, because
I was like, why?
It was still Jack Bauer. Lars von Trier doesn't have any idea what he's doing. I keep, like, I know I'm supposed to pronounce it Trier, and I did, like, at least 2 or 3 times in my review. I did pronounce it correctly, even though mostly pronouncing it wrong. But I thought that if I pronounced it both ways, then people would understand that I know how to pronounce it, but I'm consciously choosing to pronounce it differently. But there's a lot of comments on there that are like, you don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's like, but I did right. But I also didn't. So therefore, does it not... if you pronounce it Trier, then you get to make jokes like Lars von Tryhard. Or... Sicken Lars von Tired. Or... I don't know. Trier doesn't have as many exploitable pronunciations for jokes, so that's why I chose differently. There were also people that thought I was being serious when I said colored gentleman. When I was like, she's looser than the scene with these 2 colored gentlemen, I thought that my voice had enough, like I thought that I did enough of an acting performance in my voice to be able to communicate that I wasn't being serious by using that term, but I got a lot of comments that were like, stuck in the 1950s? I thought I was, like, intentionally painting myself as awkward white guy for comedic effect, but I guess when sarcasm is your brand of humor, then that means that a lot of people will misinterpret you completely. I guess if I don't, like... I guess that's what laugh tracks are for. You know?
I can't imagine your videos with laugh tracks.
There's basic, like, you know what? Through editing, I have almost an equivalency of those static TV transitions. I try to put those at the end of punchlines, not only because they make good transitions, but because it is a subconscious, subtle way of implying that a joke just happened, right? It happens, and it works too. It works. It's laugh tracks without laugh tracks, which I feel is really helpful in terms of making a comedic video. Is being able, I guess, even without the static transitions, there's still a matter of like pacing. Oh, Craigslist.
Did you ever play the Fatal Frame series?
I haven't played it.
I've heard of them. They're supposed to be pretty good.
Amazing.
That's what I've heard.
More like Fatal Frame series is so gay.
Oh, oh.
Oh shit!
That was a
I brought
bird.
that to the table.
You're intellectually superior because of that statement.
Resident Evil all the way. It's getting better. Fucking each new installment is the scariest shit. It's so intense. It's the best gameplay.
Yeah.
It's the best. Yo, I want more action and less horror.
Are you playing hip hop music?
Me.
I might actually pick up the PC version of Resident Evil 4
Okay.
at some point.
I'm drinking one of the most obnoxiously Canadian drinks of all time.
Orange drink?
Coconut?
What?
Just plain old orange drink.
This is called a Caesar. And
a Caesar. Fuck yeah.
And it's like a Bloody Mary, except it doesn't taste like shit.
Oh.
And instead of tomato juice, like boring, stupid tomato juice, it's like clamato, which I'm not sure is everywhere, but it's like tomato and clam juice. Which, I mean, like, it's delicious.
Clam-tato juice.
Clam-tadio. Yeah, and it's my new favorite thing. I might just be an alcoholic because of this drink. I've actually, even to like circumvent that, I've been making a lot of like virgin Caesars. I'm like, it tastes just as good without the vodka. And I'll just like drink those during the day.
One of those more meal than actual drink.
Well, you know what? The drink is a quadruple Caesar, and it's not like 4 shots. It's like that. The glass is like a giant goblet.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And it's so good. And yeah, obviously I shared it with people. Like, I didn't have that whole thing myself. I've had it twice now. Once in a group of 4 and once in a group of 3.
Oh yeah, I remember the picture of that.
It's so good. And it's also really good marketing because now, like, people like me are sharing it around and being like, yo, I did this.
It's like the Wicker Man of edibles.
The Wicker Man.
Happens in France.
It is pulled pork and macaroni hot dog on there. It's so good.
Do you like living in Canada?
Sorry? Do I like living in Canada?
Yeah.
Based on other countries, yes. Like, I don't know. I feel like Canada's a good place to be. If I get sick of, like, one way of living, there's quite a variety of different settings and atmospheres. I could go to French land without leaving the country. Right? I could go live as a Frenchman if I really wanted to. I could go to Quebec or Montreal. Montreal? I don't even know French fluently, but maybe I might learn. I could go to Alberta, which is like the Texas of Canada. I could go to Saskatchewan, which is like... I could go to like Saskatchewan, which is like the North Carolina of Canada. I could go to Ontario, which is like the America of Canada. And right now...
America.
Well, the America as a whole of Canada, and then Quebec is the France of Canada, and then Newfoundland is like the stereotype Canada of Canada. So you can like go there and people will legitimately say a boot and like have almost an entirely different dialect. There's tons of like, if I really wanted to live like as a mountain man, I could do that. I can be in the big city. I'm not like atrociously raped by higher authority. Like the federal government is still kind of shit because we got like the George Bush of Canada in power right now, the George W of Canada.
Yeah.
And
just fucking leave is a problem.
yeah, and he recently made all these changes to like medical marijuana dispensaries and their regulations, saying like, oh, if they don't follow this like strict code that has nothing to do with anything, then they're illegitimate and you need to like shut them down. Clearly just a ploy to like get more shut down, right? And so they implemented that, and then the Vancouver mayor and police department came out in a statement and said, yeah, we understand that this is now illegal and we should shut these places down, but we're going to focus on real crimes instead. They literally just came out and was like, okay, you made your law, but we're not going to do anything about it, so go cry. So yeah, I like that Canada's not a dead end when it comes to freedom, and it's definitely not the like most free you can be as a country, but it's up there, and I'm glad to live here when I know that there's still shit tons of space, like, and I mean like most of the space is really cold, but I mean global warming hits, it's going to affect other places worse than Canada. Canada's going to probably be a pretty good place to be in the end times as well. Tons of fresh water and wildlife and...
everyone there's a pussy. No, I'm kidding.
No, fuck you.
Yeah,
You want to go? I'll internet fight you.
Hey, you don't have samurai swords.
Your argument is illegitimate. You don't have all your facts. That's essentially what every argument comes down to. Your spelling's off.
I like that I'm not in America, but I hate that our political policies are basically decided by America anyway. And I hate how... I blame Canada's problems on America. I really do, and it's difficult not to, because, like, the Koch brothers are infiltrating their way into our political parties. Like, it's the same, like, giant American companies that have that much power because of the lack of regulation that they've decided to have in the States that are now allowing them to seep into our own politics. Bye, Ben. You must be going.
Bye.
And it's depressing in a way, but at the same time, we're not completely 100% fucked, and our education system is not, like, I mean, it has its problems, and its problems are the same problems that most education systems have, but at least it's better than the States. And we're not, well, hey, I didn't decide your policies.
Hey, neither did we in America anymore. Making that shit up.
I'm not making that shit up. Every other kid that came to Canada that used to live in the States, like when I was growing up, every other kid that was like lived in California and then came up to Canada for whatever reason, they would be like, "Oh my God, our school curriculum's entirely different, and now I'm failing. Like class was way too easy in the States." Like there's still like fuck they've got classrooms where the teachers won't even teach evolution because it conflicts with their Bible. Like, I'm glad that shit doesn't... Like, yeah, there's private Christian schools. There's like, religious schools in Canada, as there are anywhere. But it's not, like, to the point where there's a serious, like, danger. The States is failing in so many ways. And I'm not trying to be a hater. But I'm just glad to not live there, is all I'm saying. I'm glad that I get to be a spectator to the tragedy and not... Unfortunately, I guess I am kind of involved, but, I mean... We get to be on the sidelines. We get to learn what not to do, even though Harper thinks that what not to do is what to do. But... I do enjoy being a Canadian, and,
Did you say a boot? Did you say about, like, a boot?
Yes. That's how I talk.
It's sad.
No, I mean, does Harper...
No, Harper doesn't.
Then he's not the George...
He's from Calgary, Alberta. But...
He's a piece of shit.
He is a piece of shit.
Let town alone.
He's a major piece of shit.
Hey.
Calgary turns people into shit. I feel myself every day turning into a piece of shit.
Yeah.
The longer that I stay here.
You should get out.
I'm trying so hard. Actually, I got a new vehicle.
What?
And because I'm getting a new vehicle, it's practically free. I'm making $2,000. So
there you go.
I know. I'm on the track, and I'm getting a new job by the next week. So
congratulations. It looks like I'm not wearing pants, but I'm wearing shorts, so it's okay.
Mm.
Hey, I'm saying here. So,
You may speak.
I'm guessing.
Feel free to interject and interrupt if you get the opportunity. I raise my hand a lot, too.
Are you a vegetarian?
I used to be. I was for about a year. And then I didn't notice much of a difference. But it's not like... For me, I'm so... I'll make whatever contributions I can globally to what I feel best reflects my morality. But... I feel like as being a vegetarian, I was, regardless of drawing the line at a specific place, I was still drawing it somewhere. Because there's also vegetarians that consider themselves to be vegetarian, and everybody does, like literally the world does, and
they still eat fish. And I feel like eating fish is probably worse for the planet than eating chicken. And the problems with eating meat are like we can have a debate about morality behind it, right? But something that I had to get past in my own head is that as much as like, yeah, it sucks that we're killing animals and there's no real humane is not really a part of killing in the first place, right? You don't do it humanely because killing in itself is inhumane, right? But I feel like it's as a human being, I kind of like every time I kill a spider, I feel bad, but at the same time, I don't want spiders in my house, right? And there's not much I can do about it. In terms of eating meat, yes, everybody can make their contribution, but I'm so incredibly like pessimistic about the overall efforts of the contribution that I feel like it's doing a greater service to the overall progress of the issue to purchase alternative meat products or like invest in those or anything than it would be to just completely stop buying meat altogether. Because you know what, like even as a non-vegetarian, if I'm at a place and I see like a veggie burger, I'll eat a veggie burger because I like them, right? And I'm a person that whatever, just like completely throwing aside whatever moral ideas or obligations I might have, I like vegetables, and it's I can't really control that I like them, and it's not like I'm forcing myself to like them, but I like vegetables, and I'm a grazing animal, and it's difficult to explain because I kind of try to be as objective as possible in the sense of my own morality, because when we have an argument about whether or not something's humane, whether or not something is like wrong morally, there's always going to be a gray area, and like there's no, you can show the most horrific video on the planet and it's not going to change someone's mind who doesn't give a fuck about animals anyway, right? It doesn't even like, it doesn't matter because there's people on the planet who could see that happening to a human being and they wouldn't give a fuck if they're like a Jew or gay or anything, right? And so there's no way we're going to win over the human population for animal rights in that sense. I think that what really changed my perspective on vegetarianism and generally the problems with society is that I realized that the biggest problem with the meat industry is not the moral side of it. The biggest problem with it is how much farmland it's taking up, how much it's adding to our greenhouse gases. It's doing shit tons of damage to the planet, especially seafood, which ironically is the one exception that vegetarians make, right? Yet seafood is like one of the worst contributing factors. I mean, that's when you can decide between whether someone's vegetarian for moral reasons or for environmental reasons, is if they eat seafood. But I feel like literally not only that problem with our overconsumption of animals, not only our problem with greenhouse gases, which whether or not they're caused by animals or vehicles or oil or anything, like almost every single problem that we face as a giant collective species on this planet is because of our population. And I feel like it would... I just watched yesterday... what's that chef who swears a lot?
Oh, Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon Ramsay. I watched a little 15-minute doc of him going to Japan or China, and just watched people pay like 90 pounds for shark fin soup. And he was saying a lot of stuff that I already knew about it, that shark fin soup doesn't even have a flavor. Like the fin itself is like flavorless, so they have to add chicken or beef broth to it anyway, and whether or not the broth is delicious, there's really no point to it being shark fin soup. And he interviewed some people, and they were like, well, yeah, because, I mean, it's like special occasion, I don't see why I should stop eating it. Like, everybody's ignorant to the fact that it's fucking up the planet and the ecosystem and the species in the ocean, and that's the way that people are going to be. And I do not have faith in the persuasion of people to care about our own species and our own planet, because the human brain is very, very good at convincing yourself of certain things. And if something's convenient to believe, if it makes you sleep better at night, then you'll believe it. And that's the problem. And if ever, I know I mentioned earlier, just vaguely, that we will have to have a serious problem or conversation about overpopulation in the not too distant future. But I mean, right now we're past the point.
It'll just correct itself, though.
Yeah, with like fucking SARS 3.0, but I'd like it not to get to that point. I'd like to not watch my family die.
I'd like asking humanity something to be like, hey guys, we should really care about this problem.
Well, I know, but that's the thing, though, is that we care too much about the fake, whimsical, like, idealistic idea of our own rights to have children, where it's like I said earlier, like, okay, so we've agreed that there's a certain qualification for adoptive parents to have to be fit to raise a child, and yet it's okay that someone, like, has 12 children for religious reason. Like, I get it, we're in Canada right now, there's tons of space, but globally, if the entire world was living like North America is living in terms of consumption, the planet would be gone, like, tomorrow.
Well, that's the problem with, like, third world countries, is they're trying to equal our equivalent.
Exactly, because we're not leading by example. And so any like, I watched the documentary The Island President, and they were trying to convince there's this island, and this dude is the president of these islands, I think near China, and he's trying to have conversations with world leaders, trying to say, like, that we should cut on emissions because in 15 years these islands are going to be gone, and this is my whole country, and we're all going to become refugees due to environmental circumstance. And literally every political leader that he's talking to is just like, oh, what? So America and Europe and all these developed countries, they got to live free high on oil, and we don't get to? Like, it has to stop before we're allowed to do this? No, they should be the ones to do that. And that's it's a problem with humanity, is that no one's going to step up, right? Everybody's going to, like, point fingers until we're all fucking dead. It's sad. That's why I'm pessimistic, is because, like, as much as I'm complaining about it and as much as I'm trying to come up with solutions, they're all failures. All of these solutions are failures. And you know what? We might just be living in, like, a great time where we get to die at the ripe age of 65 before shit really hits the fan. Maybe it'll hit the fan before we're dead. You know, it sucks. It sucks. And hopefully, you know, Mars One will send some people to Mars, and then they'll be like, oh, maybe they fucked up. And we'll learn from that. And hopefully the billionaires on planet Earth will die before they bribe someone to ship them to Mars and fuck up that planet as well.
Has anyone ever listened to George Carwell?
Nope.
Like, his opinion on Earth is that we're just, like, basically just a bunch of mosquitoes or ants.
George Carlin or Carwell?
Carlin.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
then.
yeah, I love Carlin.
Yeah, like, he was like, the planet will just shake us off like a bunch of fleas, and it's just going to move on.
Yeah, I was just watching George Carlin.
It's sad.
What else?
I would love to not be pessimistic. I would love that so much, and I understand how comfortable that would make me feel to be optimistic and think that everything's going to be okay. But, I mean, the trajectory that we're going is stating otherwise, and I can't ignore facts.
No, but yeah.
I get depressed now whenever I think about, like, the global problems of society, because it's not something that I can see solving itself. I'd love to think that there could be a solution, and maybe if I believed in the Holy Spirit, then I would feel more comfortable. But I got really depressed about politics even here when I tried to do that marijuana decriminalization thing, and it didn't go through, and I was okay. Like I was like, okay, better luck next time. We'll try again in a couple of years, right? And then when I looked at the actual statistics, and I realized that the two states in the U.S. that passed decriminalization, Washington and Colorado, not only did Washington have 6 months to collect signatures and Colorado have 10 months, British Columbia, where I was trying to do it, our Elections BC says that we only have 3 months to get a referendum done. Not only that, our population is much smaller, and yet the total number of citizens that we needed to collect signatures for was way larger than Washington and Colorado. The total percentage of our population was so much more. They needed like 10% of their population. We needed like 40% or some bullshit. And I'm like, there's no way to get anything done by playing by the rules anymore. So you're pretending as if I have the option to be able to change things, and you're just saying no. And it's fucked up. I got so, like, I used to, like, post so many links on my Facebook of, like, petition, and now I'm just, like, so crushed by it that I don't even want to try anymore. It's sad. It's sad.
I was talking to my law enforcement buddy about this whole shit thing about the marijuana, and I made a post on Police One, and I had like every freaking cop on there just be like hating on me because I posted something about like, well, why would that matter if you're just law enforcement officers? And my buddy was talking to me. He's like, it's how towns and cities can basically make a revenue, because without being able to have criminals or
I know it's creating a market, and that's why private prisons in the States are so fucked up, because you're creating an incentive for people to go to jail. 1% of the entire population, that's 1 in every 100 people in the States.
Yeah.
10% of the world's global prison population.
Yeah.
Did I get that fact right? It's an insane number like that.
We're the only country in the United States that still does solitary confinement.
The only country in the United States?
Only country.
No, world.
Your argument is invalid.
First world country in the world. The United States is the first.
North Korea is not a first world country?
We're best world country.
Dennis Rodman says it's really cool. I think George Carlin kind of had it right in a sense in his general pessimistic, realistic outlook, because, you know, I used to think that, you know, if I was successful enough, maybe my long-term goals could be like politics and fixing the planet and activism. But now I feel like my best case scenario is to just like try to be happy and then hope I die before shit hits the fan. Like, really, does anybody really want to live forever? We're really not, like, we're still entirely dependent on non-renewable resources, and everybody is pretending as if it's okay. Like, we learned that shit in fucking elementary. The words non-renewable should clue you in to how things are gonna play out. It's ridiculous.
Well, the sad part is that even if we did get anything like moving towards the direction, like if you just look around your house, tell me what is not made out of oil.
Exactly. Plastic's made out of oil. My computer's made out of oil. Every fucking thing is made out of oil. It doesn't even matter where the energy comes from. Like, we're going to be digging in landfills for plastic.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Like, you look around your house and realize that how many oil-based products is even just everywhere in your house. And I'm like, yep. There's like
my dildos are made of oil.
Yeah, I cover them in oil too.
I don't know if
so
they actually
much
are.
oil.
Yeah, it's not looking too hopeful.
We're a pretty resourceful species, though. I mean, even if shit just like absolutely went
The smartest of us are resourceful, right?
Yeah,
Like the ones who invent everything, and then like the masses, all they need to do is read an instruction manual and not understand how things work. Sorry, what were you saying?
I feel like 75% of the planet would die off just from being too stupid to take care of it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, especially considering how detached we are from our food process in the first place. Like, nobody catches their own food, right? And B, like, if suddenly shit hit the fan and grocery stores weren't an option, even if you knew how to catch food, chances are you're living in a place where every single catchable piece of food will be gone in a day. And
I live in Montana, and like if shit hit the fan right now, people would be like, "Oh, a person in California, I'm gonna head up there." But like every person here would be like, "Hey, I hunt and I have a hunting rifle. Let's go kill the deer out there."
And people would start killing each other and eating them. Right there. Yeah, human would be like a delicacy.
Yeah, like
or just
would be like,
chow.
Oh my goodness, look at the squirrel! We have a morsel of food.
Well, wait, think about that scene. If anybody's played Last of Us, and this isn't giving away any spoilers, but think about that scene when they get to the dam, the generator. There's an entire community of people scratching their heads going, how do we work this generator? And it took them years to get it working.
Exactly. And that's true, how too, because like you'd have to have someone like an engineer working on shit. Like, if you're not someone who knows how to like build things from scratch, or like Survivor Man, then you're kind of fucked. And even so, I mean, like your best attempts at doing things by yourself will be thwarted by some fucking idiot with a gun who just wants to kill you. Because America is definitely not where I want to be if a global catastrophe happened. Because walking outside of your house will get you shot, and if you stay inside your house, someone will come there and shoot you. Every time I do a Google Hangout, we start complaining about the worlds.
Pretty much.
That's like the theme of my whole channel, is that everything sucks, and that I'm mad. Things are not okay.
What about, like, backlash from, like, people who, like, comment on your shit?
What backlash?
I've seen a few comments like that. Just gonna even on
Spider-Man. Holy cow.
You're
nitpicking. That would be a legitimate complaint if the films on my best movies of the year list were also subject to the exact things I complain about in the movies that I hate. But the problem is that the movies that I recommend to people are not ridden with all of those things. And they're acting like, oh, you have a bias against superhero movies. You point out things that are wrong with it that you could point out wrong with any movie. And people live in this weird bubble where they think that, like, literally every movie ever made has as much going wrong with it as The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they're like, well, I didn't notice it, so therefore, if you tried to find it in any other movie, it would be there, right? No. Bad.
Yeah, when you talked about the Avengers, you said it was good, and then you said, it's like, yeah, but I didn't get how Hulk suddenly just became sentient at the end for no fucking reason. A legitimate complaint, but you said the movie was good, you enjoyed it, and then you...
It was above average, and then people got pissed.
Yeah, it's like, how dare you?
This was the best movie ever made. All of my friends said so, and you are wrong.
Oh, man. I would know. I read comic books. That makes my...
Box office numbers do not lie.
Check out Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody liked it.
Yeah.
I actually just I just watched Antichrist again for the third time. It was a date movie. That was the first movie I watched with this date. It was perfect. She loved it.
I'd be scared.
That's rating is like, what was it, 48% on Rotten Tomatoes or something?
Yeah.
I love it. Like if you go to Rotten Tomatoes right now or Flickster and look at the rating for Noah and Heaven is for Real, it is like the reviewers are like, Noah was awesome, and then everybody was like, it was shit. And then you look at Heaven is for Real, and the viewers are like, it's awesome, and the reviewers are like, this was a piece of shit. And I just think that is so hilarious because
consistency.
I know, right?
They're different movies. Like, one is art with, like, nonsense, and the other is just complete propaganda with no art.
Propaganda is giving it a little bit better. I think it's just like a pile of steaming shit.
It is propaganda. What was it? Was it Heaven is for Real or God's Not Dead? They both came out so like.
Heaven is for Real.
God
is just a pile of shit.
God is for Real is about the child that can like.
No, Heaven is for Real.
Heaven is.
Whatever. Fuck it.
It's the true story of the fucking like 7-year-old that died and came back and said he saw Jesus. But they're going to completely ignore that the exact same thing happens in other countries where people die and come back and say they saw Krishna. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die, and if I ever get, like, revived in a hospital, I'm gonna say, Flying Spaghetti Monster, legit. It happened.
That actually happened to me. I did get revived. And I didn't. What I saw was kind of hellish. Like, as they brought me back, was kind of hellish. But it's only because you're going through hell. It's like.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, you have to understand that, like, literally every single emotion, visual representation, and auditory hallucination is completely fabricatable inside your head.
Yep.
Like, no one's ever had a dream. Like, you think that you can't, like, experience something when you're, like, especially if you're not conscious. Like, no, it was real, it happened. Like, people are completely fucking...
Oh.
People are completely ignorant to the fact that, like, your own brain coerces what you think you should be seeing.
Dude,
right?
Also, another thing is that somebody posted this video of, like, the child rape scare of the 1990s or 80s or something.
I posted that.
Oh, that was right. Yeah. That was right. Okay. Anyways, I followed the kid. Like there's like a whole study or documentary. I think it was you that posted it.
I did post it. I told people to see it in my 2012 review when I mentioned The Hunt.
Yes. I followed that. Watched that documentary, and I was like, shit, dude. Fucking kids are terrifying. Because
yeah.
But the study that they did, it completely applies to that whole situation where God is, Heaven is for Real. Because the dad, I guess, after 2 years, would like talk to his kid about it. Well, I mean, how much influence is this kid getting from his dad as a pastor that's developing that story? Like,
yeah.
He's influencing him just by talking about something, and he's like, "Well, did this happen to you?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that totally happened to me."
And what's even more insane is, like, people often forget that a child's susceptibility to hallucination is just a general summary of what we actually experience as adults. Is that we experience the exact same thing, just not on an as obvious level. Because when you're a kid, literally, I mean, like, you're just filling your heads with, like, reality, not reality, reality, not reality, and you only have so many things that you can, like, base everything off of, so, of course, your nightmares seem very real. Your dreams, sometimes you wake up and you think they actually happen, because you're at that age where you don't have enough of a data bank to be able to distinguish fiction from reality yet. And even as adults, same thing happens. Just we just have a bit more of a solidified data bank is all. Like when you they've done like plenty of experiments on just how unaware we are of our own senses, where people will like while someone's not looking, like go up to a counter and then like crouch below it and then come back up as a different person, and like no one will even notice, like completely different person, and just pretend like everything's like the same, like no one will notice. It's insane. Or I don't know, just general like intentional hallucinations that we experience where your brain is trying to coerce what it thinks is happening based on what should be happening, but it's not what's happening. Like any eye trick image where it looks like it's moving but it's not. Like, we accept that those exist, and yet witness testimony is supposed to mean something, right? Like, we don't I don't know, people are really selective over what facts we ignore and what facts we remember. That's what I liked about Memento.
Thought, Too many people don't have critical thought when they like observe something, or
chances are we don't something. Either.
You have to like research it when you hear something like, oh hey, guess what? Did you know the Chinese just sent a man to the moon? Oh really? Well, let me go check that out and fact check the shit out of it.
And you know what's even like more distressing about this that I've come to understand recently is that even if you are fact checking, there's so much bullshit on the internet that you could go on the internet with literally any opinion and then find a million articles that support your opinion no matter what position you have. And you're going to go in and say you fact checked, but you're really just looking for something that supports your opinion. We're fucked forever.
Damn the internet.
As far as like near-death experiences go, there's always that comment, I was walking down a tunnel of light or something like that.
Yeah, doctors have flashlights that they shine into your eyes while you're unconscious.
or the fact that like how many of you ever like saw light when you just close your eyes? Just like you might see like a flicker like that. It's actually just your retinas like just kind of firing off. It's usually when your mind is very active. It's a natural fucking thing that happens. When your mind is like, or when you're near death and your brain is firing off, of course you're gonna fucking see light. Even flashes, maybe even one bright one, and it's like always consistent. Like, oh yes, we're going to heaven. Oh,
I can't wait to try DMT. I really can't. I've always been under the impression that the light at the end of the tunnel is probably like an unconscious hallucination of a doctor shining a flashlight into your eye.
Yeah.
Because they try to check for your pupil dilations, right?
Yeah. First-hand experience. You see a lot of light at first. When you're put in a coma, which I was, induced coma, sedation, whatever you want to call it.
Medically induced.
Yeah. You basically, like, whatever's happening around you, it's interpreted to your hallucination.
Exactly. Because...
Like when I was getting pushed from room to room, in the ICU, and surgery to surgery, because I've underwent a lot, it felt like I was, like, flying through buildings.
Whee!
I had no control of what I was doing.
That's exactly correct, because when you're dreaming in just a normal night's sleep, anybody that, you know, has the tendency to be able to remember their dreams especially would pick this up. But when you're dreaming, it's not like you wake up in a cold sweat because something bad happened in your dream. Something bad happened in your dream because you were too hot at night and you woke up in a cold sweat. Your body... your brain when you're sleeping, since you're not conscious, your brain's always struggling on a constant mission to try and interpret what is happening and what is affecting your body, right? You get pinched on your arm, you're going to interpret that as a pinch, right? But that's just being conscious. Now, when you're unconscious, something as simple as, like, you can do this for yourself. Eat a bunch of, like, junk food, ice cream, pepperoni, and, like, pickles before you go to sleep. You're going to have a nightmare, right? And it's not like the nightmare is causing you to feel uncomfortable. Your uncomfortable actions in your digestive system, which are causing you to feel like sickly and bad, it's happening to you. You're unconscious, and your brain's going, why the fuck do I feel so shitty? It must be because there's a killer in my house and nobody will believe me, or something, right?
Yeah,
like your dreams are interpretations of what you're already feeling. We already understand that, like, it's even common knowledge that whole cliched warm water on your hand will make you pee while you're asleep. That's, again, your brain is just trying to interpret what is already being forced upon you in terms of your own senses.
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's really I dig it, and it's interesting, and because of that, I've really been able to notice my dreams have a very distinct correlation with my general mood in any given series of weeks. So like especially like during months where I'm like particularly depressed and anything like that, I would get recurring dreams of like being in an elevator that is like falling apart and like having to hang on to shit and like falling and constantly in this like downward, metaphorically downward visual representation. And then like any points in my life where things have been going particularly great, I would always get this same sort of like visual metaphor in my dreams, like completely unintentional, and I'd have to interpret it after, of generally the up direction of like maybe I'm in an elevator going up, or maybe I'm walking upstairs, and it's for whatever reason, I think that the part of the reason why I'm able to interpret film in that same sense and be able to pick up on like metaphor, symbolism, is because for whatever reason my mind already like subconsciously operates in that way, where that song I wrote, Spools a Thread, was, despite being a giant metaphor, was also very literal when I was, young and like eating my thoughts alive, trying to sleep and stressed out. It would literally, it's based off of a literal visual representation of a spool of thread inside my head unwinding, and I would keep trying to like visually bring it back to where it was in kind of like an OCD sort of sense, but I would keep myself up at night because this subconscious part of my brain was kept tugging in the other direction, and I was in a constant mental battle with myself and my subconscious. I'm fucked up. But no, yeah, it's dreams have a very, very large part to play in like I don't believe like, oh, my dream can tell the future, but I do believe that based on how you feel when you fall asleep, it'll affect what you see in your dreams, and maybe what you're not necessarily conscious to understanding in your normal everyday life. If you remember your dream and try to think about what happened and the general tone and whether or not you were upset at maybe a person or something in your dream, it might tell you something that you might not know, or you might already know about your current situation. Literally any time that, like, I don't know if everybody's brain does this, but mine is just like a vindictive asshole. So like every time that I would have money troubles at any point in my life where like money is the constant like stress, I would have a dream where like I would find money left and right, like $100 bills in couches and shit, like toonies all over the place. Toonies, Canadian. Just like pick them up and just be like, fuck yes, this is exactly what I needed. And then I'd wake up and I'd be pissed. Because I'd be like, fuck, I thought that was happening. My problems were solved for a second. And again, direct correlation with your dreams being influenced by not only what you're feeling, but what you're thinking before you fall asleep. Everybody's had that, because everybody's had, on a more simple and literal sense, everybody's had that, like, oh, I got to study for the exam. Night before the exam, they'll dream that they, like, go there naked or something. Like, it'll fill into, like, oh, I went to school, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm not at school yet. Or, like, something's happening at work that you have to prepare for. Like, I worked at Best Buy for so long that it was intercepting my dreams left and right. So, like, something that I would be like, okay, I got this, I'll deal with this tomorrow at work. I go home, fall asleep, and then dream that I do it. And then wake up and be like, shit, now I gotta actually do it. It's, I don't know why my brain does that.
Yeah, my brain's
I don't know if everybody's brain does it to the degree that mine does, but it's really easy to see the blatant, almost vindictive representations and connections that my brain decides to shove in my face. Yeah, one of my like biggest fears is having like a major accident affect my life, and like let's say I get hit by a car and lose like 2 arms and a leg, my biggest fear is not just that happening, but going to sleep and then dreaming like everything's okay and then waking up.